This week, a supermajority of Republicans in both chambers of the North Carolina state legislatures overrode the Democrat governor's veto of a law that would have protected women's sports. It would have protected women's private spaces. It meant that a 14-year-old girl in high school, when undressing for athletics, would not be exposed to male genitalia without her consent. It seems pretty reasonable. Seems like a minute and a half ago in this country, everybody pretty much agreed with that. But no, the Democrat governor vetoed it. Thankfully, the Republicans have overrode it, and women and women's sports are protected in that state. There's something else going on in North Carolina with regard to transgender activisms that actually might make an even larger and lasting change to the insanity we're dealing with right now, and that's a lawsuit by a guest that we've had on previously. She tells a compelling and important story. She is Prisha Mosley, and she's joined tonight with her attorney, Josh Payne. Both of you, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
Prisha, I want to start with you just in terms of your reaction to this law. The fact that, considering where we were a couple of years ago in this country, where it seemed like we were just plowing face first downhill into all of this new transgender sort of activism in our schools affecting young girls, 14, even younger. And now you see the tide really changing quite a bit. What do you think?
I'm excited and relieved. I mean, I think change finally has to happen. And I feel like one of the biggest safeguards for gender ideology has been the ignorance of the general public, which has not been their fault. Things have been hidden from them, but that's no longer the situation. People can't say they don't know what's happening as much anymore, and change is coming.
Well, and you've said in the past when you talk about your story and your detransition that the doctors were very much involved with sort of pushing this on you. You felt like, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'd love for you to sort of briefly articulate what you were going through with regard to medical professionals and people who get rich off of these procedures, and that leads us to your lawsuit.
So I was just a very distressed, mentally ill teenager going through not only normal teenager things, which were pathologized, but also serious mental health struggles. And I was promised by doctors who were on a path to bolster their careers and make money that changing my body to look like a boy's body would fix my mental health. And being so mentally compromised, I completely believed it.
And that brings in your lawyer that you have now, Josh Payne with Campbell Miller Payne, founding partner there. What is the lawsuit, if you could tell us, Mr. Payne? And is there precedent for this kind of civil action?
Thank you for having us, Larry. Yes, Prisha is bringing claims really for medical malpractice, and she alleges that her doctors and her counselors who were involved in providing healthcare services, whom she trusted to take care of her, in fact, as she alleges in her lawsuit, deceived her and misled her into a path of medicalized gender transition, uh, cross-sex hormones, which really is a euphemism for injecting large amounts of testosterone into her female body, and also removing her healthy breasts. And these are lasting injuries that Prisha has suffered, and she's seeking justice for what happened to her, hopefully sending a message to others like her that this is not okay, and to hold her providers accountable for what they did, and to
These are such
hopefully prevent this from happening to others.
Counselor, these are such drastic steps. The prescription of these very powerful medications at a time when bodies are still growing and still sort of following their natural course, and then the removal of healthy organs like a double mastectomy. I would assume, I would hope that the medical community has a whole lot of stopgaps before they pull the trigger on a procedure like this. There's a lot of checks. There's a lot of sort of gates that you have to go through and clear before they give the go ahead. Is that the case, or it sounds like this was fast tracked?
In Prisha's case, it was a situation where, as she says, she was a vulnerable teenager, that she was suffering from a number of mental health issues that had been diagnosed, including major depression, obsessive compulsive disorder. Um, he was very vulnerable. And instead of addressing those issues properly and diligently and appropriately, her providers uh, chalked all of this up to what they felt was her needing to be physically changed,
Mm.
drastically changed, permanently altered and scarred into what they thought was turning her into a boy, and that would solve her mental health problems. And as she says, it did not, and left her very emotionally and physically injured as a result.
Honestly, Prisha, I'm emotionally injured hearing your story. I'm sorry. It's just it breaks my heart. And I got to ask you a couple of questions here about what was going on there. I mean, did these counselors and these doctors did they use terms like your sex was just assigned at birth and you were born in the wrong body, things like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I was utterly convinced that I had a disease, similar to like being intersex, but the disconnect was between my body and my brain, not my body and my body. And in such a way, we had to do medical treatment, or I would kill myself. And all of this very carefully crafted language is used. I mean, even HRT, hormone replacement therapy, it's wrong sex hormones. That's not what it is. It's all so manipulative.
Yeah, and with regard to the hormones, I hear this all the time from the advocates that puberty blockers, hormone therapy, cross-sex hormones, testosterone injections for young women, that it's all reversible, it's all temporary. Well, do you have any permanent damage from those procedures?
Nothing has gotten better. The only thing I've been able to do is stop making it worse, but there's been no change. I can't shrink my bones and my muscles or rebuild parts I've lost or undo atrophy or I mean there's nothing to be done.
Well, and that's why you're suing, and that's exactly what you should do if you've been damaged like this, especially permanently. So, counselor, Mr. Payne, what kind of damages are we talking about here exactly? Because I've always said it's the lawsuits that will actually change this stuff. As long as people are getting rich and they're not held accountable, they'll keep doing this. So, how exactly do you represent Prisha and make sure that she gets what she deserves?
Well, it is about seeking justice, holding her healthcare professionals accountable, and hopefully preventing this tragedy from happening to others. And that's what it's all about. It's a platform. It's sending a message, and yes, holding people accountable because that is very important, and that's what our justice system is designed to do for injured victims like Prisha.
When, of course, punitive damage is it's just what it's called, punitive. They should be punished, right? And you're hoping that a jury will agree.
We are, and we believe it's appropriate. Punitive damages are called for when there is egregious conduct and willful, wrongful conduct, which we have alleged occurred here. And that is exactly right. It is meant to send a message and to deter this conduct from happening again. It is a tragedy, and we hope that it will be a preventable tragedy going forward.
Prisha, in our final minute here, I'd love to bring you back because it looks as though you've found a community. From my observations online and social media, you're getting a lot of support. And there's this little community now of detransitioners, as you call yourself. And I think that your numbers are going to grow. And it's
Oh, yes.
interesting. It seems like you have so much in common because you've been told the same thing.
Oh my gosh, it's wild how we're meeting for the first time and they tell me my story and I tell them theirs.
Yeah.
I would also like to add that for about every detransitioner that you guys see that becomes public, about 5 to 10 come and find us in the group chat and in our little circles and don't become public. And we all have relationships and talk to each other.
Well, they will be in our prayers along with you, of course, Prisha. And we'll be watching this lawsuit very carefully. They're going to try their best to get rid of it, to ignore it, to buy you off. I appreciate your courage. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
There's more to come
Thank
on
you.
O'Connor tonight. Keep it here at Salem News Channel.